Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to see how students would place lift arms and adapters underneath the jack points of a vehicle on a properly positioned, or as we say, spotted vehicle. This is a two-post frame engaging lift, and so that's the type of lift that we're focusing on. And you see that the vehicle is placed in the lift spot. The parking brake is on and the transmission is in park. And it is placed parallel to the lift arms, in other words, not crooked or slanted, and it is placed properly forward and back. This is the sort of locating plate, and cars with a relatively small wheelbase, like this car has, which is the distance between the front and the rear wheels, the optimal positioning is right up in front of the plate, but not centered on it. Other vehicles, depending on their wheelbase, would be you'd want to put them right on the plate, and if it's a really long pickup truck, then you'd want to put it actually front wheel up here. So students are going to with one student on each lift arm are going to make a judgment, an assessment on where and how to place the lift arms under the vehicle. And it helps to have a light here. And so in this scenario, one student would swing this out, and they would have to kind of manipulate this so that it doesn't get hit there. So the way you can do that is turn that like that. And they're going to have to make a judgment about whether this should be placed on a frame, if this is a body on frame car, or if it is a unibody car with a pinch weld. And they're going to get used to identifying things like that right there, which is part of the reinforced pinch weld on this unibody car, and to place the lift arm properly right there. They're going to have to decide whether they're going to use a flip-up adapter like that or one like that. In this case, this is a car that's pretty low to the ground, and this flip-up adapter could be used like that. That would be acceptable right there, okay? The short adapter, or they could go flat like that, okay? Flat like that, and centered underneath there, and making sure that this hits first and that doesn't hit first, that this part of the lift doesn't hit the body kit. A student that was working on this arm would come over here and have to make the same decision. They might be looking at the person in front of them or not. They're going to start to identify whether this is a unibody or body on frame car, depending on whether it has a pinch weld or has body on frame. And they also could decide to use this small flip-up adapter. They're going to have to get used to doing things like this, pulling this out to reach properly, okay? To reach properly, and centering that like that. But if that person is going flat, then they're going to have to go flat as well. In this case, it would be perfectly acceptable and safe to either go flat like that or use the flip-up adapter going across the jack point right there. I think in this case we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to use that guy right there. And then the same thing would take place. There'd be a student here and a student here, and they'd be making the same type of judgments. If this is too far out, then they would have to move it in to get it nicely positioned right under there. Again, making sure that that doesn't contact before that does, because that will damage the body kit, also called the rocker panel. And then over here, there would be a student making a decision here on this jack point right here. And then again, making sure that that distance is smaller than this distance. And then the fifth student would walk around and make sure that they were all consistent, that they had chosen unibody, all chosen unibody, and not some unibody and some body on frame, and that no one, say, was using this as a flip-up adapter here, and then everyone else was going flat, or that these two were flipped up, those two were flat, and you also can't have two flipped up here and both flat there. So the fifth person is going to go around and make sure that that all four arms are consistent. And then when that's the case, the whole group will come to the instructor and say, okay, we're ready for inspection. And the instructor would go around and verify that all those decisions had been made well and made correctly, and that they were all consistent. And that would be the method to have students practice placing the lift arms under the vehicle and making a judgment call about where to be placed and how to adjust the adapters. And a lot of that has to do with their previous lessons on vehicle frames, unibody versus body on frame, and then jack points, pinch welds, things of that nature.